Hi, and welcome to another narration presented by yours truly, Cryptid's Roost. Be sure to check out the blooper reel at the end of the video, which is then followed by the end screen where you will find more videos listed. So grab your coffee, sit back and enjoy the show. And don't forget, where fear is, happiness is not. Did anybody else grow up hearing about the Blue Elves when they were kids? This awesome series is written by Corpse Child. Corpse Child now has 2 books available, Damned Whispers and The Other Side. They are both available as a Kindle book and also in paperback, except Other Side. That one is also available in hardback. Be sure to check them out. The Amazon links to both books will also be listed below in the description. Psychotoxic Press is a newly fledged horror publishing house where Corpse Child is both the co-founder as well as the in-house author and artist. They have just released their very first quarterly magazine, Eidetic Quarterly Part 1. Be sure to check it out. Link is below. Part 1. When you were all little, what were your favourite things to do for Christmas? Caroling, Christmas parades, gingerbread cookie decorating? You know, fun stuff. Stuff you'd see on just about every Hallmark Channel movie, right? Hell, you probably even got to go out and pelt your little brother and sister in the face with snowballs because you actually lived somewhere where there was snowfall like that. Oh, and excuse me, but how could I forget the big man himself, Santa, the world's greatest and biggest cat burglar. Okay, look, I'm not trying to be Ebenezer fucking Scrooge here. Though God knows I might damn well have every reason to do so. Just for reasons you'll see. Christmas wasn't a time of cheer for me growing up. Back to the earlier question though. What were some of your favourite things to do at Christmas time? I bet no one says telling ghost stories. I can tell you're scratching your head now, wondering what the hell is this guy going on about, telling ghost stories? This is Christmas, not Halloween. Well, besides the fact that it is part of a popular Christmas jingle, I would have honestly agreed with you. Thing is, that's exactly what it was like growing up for me. Now, I'm going to broaden my earlier question a bit. Instead of Christmas time activities, I want you to now think of every possible ghost story you've heard up to this point, Christmas related or otherwise. And I want you to tell me if you've ever been told about something called the Blue Elves. I'll give you a moment to think on that one. Nothing? Figured. Worth a shot, I guess. Well, to put it simply, the Blue Elves were something my dad used to tell me about all the time. It was just me and him growing up. I never knew my mother. For the longest time, I was almost convinced I didn't actually have a mother. The old man wouldn't ever talk about her. And looking back on those days, I can't ever remember seeing any old photos of him and any other woman. Or with me, for that matter. Now, as to what they actually are, well, I'll let the old man tell you himself in his words. They're some mean little critters, Robbie, he'd always tell me. He'd always have this serious look on his face too. The way all parents do when they're giving a dire warning, even when it's being dressed up in a ghost story. They're vicious and scary elves, not like the ones that make toys. No, they like to take little boys away. Where do they take them, Pop? I asked once. They take 'em to a dark place and give 'em away to other monsters, and they never get to see their mamas and pops again. But why? Why do they want to take little boys away? He always just shrugged at this and replied, I don't know, son. They just do. Sometimes critters are just evil like that. It makes them happy to make children cry. He'd place his hands on my shoulder and added, But I got you, Robbie. I got you. I ain't gonna let the blue elves get you. He gestures to his shotgun, which was almost always propped against his closet door. But that means, boy, that you gotta stay inside when you see the lights. Lights? Yeah, the flashing lights. That's their calling card. Their signal. When you see the red and blue lights, that's the blue elves coming, and they'll take any and every little boy they see. By this point, I would of course be shaking in my shoes, 2 seconds from flooding my pants with piss. So yeah, that's the infamous blue elves. I grew up hearing that story, or at least variants of it, for a long time when I was younger. More times than not, it was out of scolding me for being out when I wasn't supposed to be, aka when the street lamps came on. Apparently the blue elves in our area were nocturnal, or so the old man would tell me. I suppose in one way I was lucky. He'd just scare me with this instead of tanning my hide or something like that. In other ways, I guess I'd have taken the whipping over this. At least, believe it or not, there's a hell of a lot less psychological damage in that, you know? Have your ass whipped a little bit, struggle sitting comfortably for the next 2 days to a week, then it's all over and life moves right the hell along, instead of a lifetime paranoia of something you'd never even seen before that. For all you know, could be around any given corner at any time. That was me, little Robbie Cutter, the boy afraid of blue elves. And before you ask, no, other kids didn't know a damn thing about them either. Therefore, also no, I wasn't taken very seriously or very well liked at the time. I didn't really care who did or didn't believe me though, even if some of the behind my back remarks and looks they gave me in the hallways or on the playgrounds were annoying. I believed in them because my pop believed in them. You know how that goes. Everything grown-ups say is always true. Now, I should clarify that I'm talking about my early years right now. That was the first time I encountered the blue elves. At least the first time I would see the lights I was warned about. I can't exactly remember, but I was either 8 years old or 7.5, going on 8 at the time. But I remember it had gotten to be around sundown that day. Pop had to work late that night and I was playing with my basketball goal outside, trying to practice for my dreams of making it to the NBA. I actually thought I'd make it to the Hall of Fame. As if. Well, the sun had sank and the streetlights had come on, but I remembered I was on this sort of winning streak, if you will, and I didn't want to stop. I looked to the garage, then down the street. Pop wasn't around. Surely, I thought, one time wasn't gonna hurt nothing, right? Right? It got darker and darker. The floodlights on the side of the house made it where I could see enough to keep playing, even if it obviously had a detrimental effect on my actual ability to score a goal. At one point I ended up flubbing a layup and the ball was hurled over the basketball goal and sent bouncing into the street. And I mean, right as my foot touched the asphalt, I heard a high-pitched noise coming from the right end of the road that almost made me drop from a heart attack where I stood. I looked to my right and watched the road get painted with a rapid red and blue glow blinking over the hill leading onto my street. For a moment I was frozen where I was. The high-pitched noise grew louder, closer, and the lights got closer and closer as well, bathing me in radiant red and blue. It was slowly that Pop's words came back to me. The lights grew and the shrieks came from whatever it was deafening. I heard the grinding of the asphalt charging straight for me. What in the hell? I thought, shaking violently, still unable to move. It was like someone had hit the world's fast forward button so many times that everything was now just moving slowly. Tracking, I believe it's called. That's what was going on. The world was tracking, therefore my reactions were also horribly delayed. In those moments all I could think about was what they would look like, what they would do. Were they huge hulking brutes with large fangs, or small little goblins that would swarm me, tearing me apart bit by bit in droves? Where would they take me? Where was Pop? Pop, where are you? I started to imagine what the other monsters he told me about would be like. What were they gonna do to me? They're gonna eat me, aren't they? A bright flash then lit up the street, which was where I finally broke, and I turned tail back for the house. I pumped my legs, all but flying to and inside the house and slamming the door behind me in one fluid motion. I curled up into a ball against the door then, crying and silently praying to God I was quick enough to rush back into the house before the blue elves could see me and try breaking down the door. I waited and waited, shaking. God, please don't let them come for me. Please don't let them get me. I'm sorry, God, and I'm sorry, Pop. I promise it won't happen again. Just please don't let them get me. At least 15 to 20 minutes must have passed. I really wouldn't have known. You know how it is with a kid who's scared out of his mind? 15 or 20 minutes might have well have been 15 to 20 hours to me at that time, with no sound or anything from the door. That was until 3 loud knocks rocked against the other side. I didn't move, only looked up at the doorknob to see it jostling. 3 more knocks sounded against the door, louder and harder this time. Oh God, this is it, I'm a goner. They're gonna take me away. What are the other monsters gonna do to me? 5 knocks pounded on the door. Go away! I'll never see Pops again. The doorknob jostled harder and harder. I thought it was going to be ripped straight off the door. What do I do? What would Pop do? I looked over to the closet. The old man's shotgun leaned against the closet door. Yeah, that's right. He'd blast them. But I don't know how to use a gun. Not a real one. How am I gonna blast it away? Knock, 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 knock. They were deafening, sounding now like they were only seconds away from just bashing the door down. From the other side, in a bellow that didn't sound even human to me, almost demonic actually, I heard them shout, "Open this damn door right now, boy! I know you're in there! You open this door, now!" I exchanged glances between the door and the shotgun. Time was up. I had to make a move. From my crouched position, I launched myself over to the closet of Pop's room and snatched the shotgun. Like I said before, everything was happening so fast. 1 second I'm braced against the door of Pop's closet, and the next I watched the front door fly open, and then BANG! I didn't even realise my finger was on the trigger. All I remember seeing was a brief glimpse outside the door, a large figure standing with wide open eyes, a puff of smoke from the barrel of the shotgun that was following with a sharp kick from the back of it that caused it to fly right out of my hands, and then nothing. Everything was still. That's when I guess you could say the remote went from tracking to straight up pause. My body locked up against the closet door, while standing in the front door I saw not a horrific goblin mutant or large beast, but instead just Pop. My heart stopped then. Pop just stood in the opening, wide-eyed and mouth agape. Silence formed a toxic cloud that seemed to cover the room. One that made my throat close up about as much as the shock alone. I'd done it. Dear God, I'd just done the worst thing imaginable. I just shot my father. Pop? He looked at the wall next to him. I turned and saw that, probably due to lack of strength needed to properly hold the damn thing, I actually missed him by about 2 or 3 inches. I'd have thanked God for that and ran up to bear hug the absolute shit out of him if it weren't for what came next. "What in the hell are you doing?" he yelled. In half an instant I watched his face, which had been almost albino a second ago, flush with crimson, white-hot rage. I shrank down farther into my pathetic little crouch. I thought... I couldn't make anything come out. Nothing that would have made any sense, at least. Scrambled as my head was, I'm honestly still a bit shocked I could get as much as those words out then. "Thought what, Robbie? Thought you'd look cool fucking around with my shotgun?" Now I was terrified. Sure, I was scared to death before, but this, hearing him use that curse at me, that was something else to me. Understood that, yeah, his language on the regular was never the cleanest, even around me at that age then. You know how when you were a kid and your parents had the "God help you if you make me get all the way to 3, or the tried and true "don't make me say your full name, first, middle and last"? Basically, the telltale signs that you were in some hot water. Basically, the telltale signs that you're in some hot as hell water, right? Well, that was what was with my old man. He only ever used strong curse words like goddamn or shit or bitch when he was exceptionally pissed off at me, and the atomic F-bomb when my ass was truly in for it. "You could have killed me! God forbid anybody else!" he shouted. His roaring, monstrous voice, I swear to this day, actually shook the house a bit. "Answer me, boy! What in the name of all that is fucking holy were you thinking even touching my shotgun like that?" I thought you were a blue elf, Pop." He looked at me, pausing for a moment. "What?" he asked. "I thought you were a blue elf. I saw them coming, and I thought they were trying to get through the door, so I was gonna blast them like you do, Pop." That's when I saw his face drain completely of colour, turning it as white as my bedsheets were at the time. "When?" he asked, his breathing quickening. Just a little bit ago." "How did you see them, huh?" Were you playing out in the streets after dark? I shrank down further. I wasn't sure how much more I'd have been able to take before my heart, which by this point was essentially cutting backflips, would finally just give out. "Robbie!" he barked. "Answer me! Were you playing outside after dark?" Yes, I cringed. I expected for him to fly off the handle at me or something. He didn't though. Instead, he just stood there, white-faced and scared shitless. Honestly, it's not all that much an exaggeration to say that he honestly looked even more scared than I was at the time. "Pop, Did they see you?" No, I don't think so." "Don't think so, or they didn't?" "I don't know. I just heard a loud noise and saw the red and blue lights and ran." He threw his head back behind him to peek through the peephole of the door. I thought I could hear him muttering something under his breath while he did this. I think it may have been something like, "God, please don't let them still be out there." Or maybe, "They are gone, right? God, please let them be gone." "Pop," I squeaked pitifully. His head jerked back around, startling me for a moment. "They're not gonna get me, are they?" For a moment, he didn't answer. Instead, I watched his face slowly fall, the anxiety and the rage completely melting away to expose a layer of warmth underneath. A layer of vulnerability. This only further scared me rather than comfort me. I wasn't ever used to seeing the old man this worked up. Of course, I wasn't used to actually driving him to this point before either. "No, son," he said, coming away from the door towards me with his arms outstretched. "No, they won't get you. You're safe now, you hear?" I nodded my head against his chest as he held me close. "No, they won't get you, Robbie. But damn it, I mean it when I say that your ass has to be in the house when the sun goes down." He looked towards the front door again and said, "Especially this time of year. They are far more likely to be out and about when you ain't expecting it." "What do you mean, Pop?" He looked at me again. Now he raised his eyebrows in confusion. "Don't you know what day it is coming up?" I stared blankly at him, blinking. "It's Christmas Eve, just this Friday." This actually made him smile a bit. I, though relieved to see him loosening up a bit, was admittedly not as thrilled as you'd expect a kid to be when hearing this sort of thing. Great how that works, isn't it? Well, anyway, he let go of me and headed towards the kitchen. I stayed against the closet door for another moment, staring at the front door. I exchanged brief glances from it to the buckshot holes in the wall beside it. Several things went through my head at the exact same time. What would have happened if that wasn't Pop at the door and I'd missed? What would have happened if I'd not missed? What would have happened if I'd not ran from the street when I had? What would have happened to me if they had seen me? What if they hadn't left? I closed my eyes and inhaled, swallowing down as much of the anxiety as I could. I slowly got up and headed to my room. I threw myself on my bed and lay there, unable to sleep, still imagining one of them prowling around outside the house, looking for a way in to get at me. Morning came and I was none too excited for it, despite it being a Saturday. That experience left quite an impression on me for years to come after that. another 7 or 8 years, in fact. In that time, I always, and I mean always, made it a point to be indoors when the sun went down. And when it got to be winter time, I'd be inside even before then. More than just this though, I was wary even out in the day-to-day world. So, like I said before, I was a little chicken, always looking over my shoulder and screaming in abject terror anytime I heard anything that even remotely resembled the sounds I heard that night. Aside from essentially killing any hopes of having a meaningful social life, this behaviour also caused concern with the teachers and other adults at the school. Pop wasn't as much concerned about it though. How could he be? How could he be? He was no better. Something I should go ahead and mention now is that I was heavily sheltered all my life. I know you're probably going, yeah, no shit, genius. But understand that it wasn't until much later that I realised just how much. If I could get a do-over, I'd have likely been a little more cautious, asked a few more questions, such as what the blue elves actually look like, why they're most common at night, and who did he actually know that had been taken by them. I was 16 and a half the next time I'd encountered the blue elves. By that time, I finally managed to actually loosen up a bit and relax as far as constantly looking over my shoulder and or ducking and covering when I heard similar sounds like I mentioned. Make no mistake, I still would be inside before it got dark. Even when the old man said himself that I could, telling me just to be cautious. No longer even mentioning the blue elves at this point. I still elected to be inside at home. What better way to be careful than to guarantee being away from trouble than to be home, you know? I guess you could say that it was more of just a reflex for me by that point. I wasn't having any more nightmares or anything about the situation. Just an instinct that kept me from wanting to be out late at night, you know? Eventually though, I started getting curious again. Brave might be a better word for it. I remember it happened when I was spending the night at my friend's house. Ash and I were staying up late playing 2K8 when I thought I started hearing it again. It was a heated game, plenty of hooting and hollering, along with plenty of suck it asshole and come at me bitch, standard fare. So when I heard it, the high pitched sound, I almost didn't actually pick up on it. Admittedly, I thought at first it was a sound from the game, but when I noticed that it was persisting even after pausing it, that's when I started to panic again. Dude, what's up? We still playing or what? Hang on, do you hear that? I cupped my ear to listen. The sounds were getting closer. Hear what? That sound. I started trying to emulate the sound as best I could. You hear that? You mean the cops? Yeah dude, I mean, they're always out here at this time of night. Cops? I asked. Yeah, he answered, confused. You know, bad boys, what you gonna do? Or what you gonna do when they come for you? I just stared blankly at him, blinking. Oh, come on, tell me you've seen that show. I shook my head. My eyes slowly left him and moved to the window at the right of him. Red and blue flashes began lighting up the small area of the living room from the window. I started shaking. Yo, Rob, are you okay? Ash asked. I didn't respond. My eyes were frozen to the window. Rob? Huh? Bro, what's up? Seriously, you're starting to make me nervous here. The window. It's just the cops, man. Chill out. I looked back to him. He was staring at me like I was losing my mind. Which, in all fairness, he may not have been completely wrong. Thing is, like the Blue Elves, I'd never seen cops before either. Like I said, heavily sheltered. Can't stress that enough. So I'm standing there, looking like I've seen the gates of hell open up. Both terrified and utterly confused at the same time, because I don't know if I can believe what I'm even hearing is real, or if anything I heard before was real. Ash was the first to break from our awkward little staring contest to move to the window. Every instinct I had in me itched to rush over and block him from opening the window like I knew he was about to. I'd stayed still though. I wanted to cry out to him to stop, but I didn't. I suppose, like I said, being as confused as I was, I sort of wanted to see them this time. I wanted to know if what Ash was saying was true, or if Pop would be proven right again. Looking back, I feel like either one would have been detrimental to me. If Ash was right, it meant everything I knew before was a lie, and would have led me down a rabbit hole that would only lead to rock bottom, if you know what I mean. If Pop was right, then just like that night years before, he would have opened the window and exposed both of us, and this time we would have been screwed. As it happened, the former would be proven true when Ash pulled up the blinds and revealed to me a couple of police cruisers speeding by the house. See? Nothing to be afraid of. Now, can we get back to our game? Because I can't just let you keep a leg up on me. I numbly watched the cruisers speed by the house. Nothing to be afraid of. Just cops. They take little boys away and give them to other monsters, and they don't ever get to see their mamas or pops again. Just cops. I'll say this much, I feel bad for the poor bastard thereafter. I broke from the window and turned to him asking, "What do you mean?" Well, usually when they're flying down the road like that, somebody's about to get popped. Popped? He made a face at me like I just told him the moon was made of cheese. Seriously, dude, what rock have you lived under all your life? I just looked pathetically at the floor. Okay, look, those sounds are called police sirens. They are used when cops, he pointed to the window again, are either chasing somebody or pulling somebody over, or to get through traffic. Point is, they use them when somebody's in trouble. When they find the bastard they're looking for, they arrest them, aka popping them. I looked out the window again. In the distance, down the other side of the street, I could faintly see the taillights of the last cruiser growing smaller and smaller, the siren getting fainter and fainter. When they're after somebody, just the cops. When you see the red and blue lights, that's the Blue Elves coming. It means someone's about to get popped. Nothing to be afraid of. They take little boys away and gave them to other monsters, and they don't ever get to see their mamas or pops again. Just the cops. I wondered then what Pops was so afraid of all my life. If it were just the cops, like Ash was telling me, Then why was Pop so worried about me being taken away? Why was he telling me about these monsters? The Blue Elves. When you say after somebody, who do you mean? He shrugged his shoulders. I don't know, man. Bad people. You know, rapists, drug dealers, stuff like that. Who? He let out an exasperated sigh. Seriously? God, I was kidding when I asked what rock you'd been living under. Look, I'm sorry, okay? I was never told about any of this stuff. My pop always just told me to stay away from the Blue Elves. His eyes shot out their sockets at me. The what? I trailed off. Somehow I knew what I was going to say was utterly moronic. Blue Elves? Seriously? Nothing, bro. Forget about it. I sat back down beside him on the floor and unpaused the game. I ended up getting my ass kicked pretty hard after that. But I couldn't have cared less about 2K or basketball in general for that matter. No, my mind was trapped in a shift between what had just happened, what happened 8 years before, and everything that led up to that point. It wasn't long after that, after getting bored mopping the floor with me at the game, that we decided to turn in for the night. Well, he did. I was wide awake yet again. Just the cops, nothing to be afraid of. Take little boys away from their mamas and pops. Nothing to be afraid of, just cops. I ended up leaving early the next morning after scarfing down 2 of his blueberry Pop-Tarts and headed home. That whole time, one thing and one thing only was on my mind. Find Pop and ask him why he'd been lying to me all these years. Thankfully, despite it being winter and just my dumbass luck not having brought a jacket with me the night before, I had the whole 1.5 mile walk to contemplate, both just what to say to the old man and how to say it. Had I not, I likely would have gone off on him as soon as I saw him. Could you really blame me if I had though? Anyway, when I got home, I found him in the garage, fiddling with something in his small little workshop area. Hey Pop, I asked, taking a deep breath. He looked up at me. Well, hey there, you have fun at your friends? He winked with a sly grin and added, you two stay out of trouble? Before chuckling. Nah, I'm just yanking your chain. What's up, son? Pop, I want to ask you about the cops. I seized up immediately when I said this. I half expected to not even be able to finish that sentence before he would lay into me. As it turned out, when I opened my eyes, he was just staring at me. What about them? Well, you remember what you always said about the Blue Elves and the lights? He nodded. Well, last night at Ash's house, I saw those lights again, just like I did back when I was a kid, and he said those were just cops. His eyebrows raised. You saw what? We saw the lights, Pop, but... Damn it, Robbie. What have I told you about staying inside after dark? No, Pop, you don't understand. We weren't. After all this time. God, why can't you just do as you're damn told? He threw down the tool he was working with. The tools hit the ground with a loud clatter, forcing my heart to skip a few beats. Pop? No, don't even try it. Just get your ass in the house. I need to not look at you for a while before I do or say something I end up regretting. I opened my mouth like I was about to try defending my case, but a quick glare from the old man quickly shut me right the hell up, and I scurried inside as hurriedly as I could. For the next 2 or 3 hours I laid on my bed, confused as all hell and wondering just what my father was keeping from me. Why was he so afraid of cops? Ash said they only took bad people away, right? My pop wasn't a bad person, right? Nothing to be afraid of. It was a few hours later when I heard the door to my room open and footsteps coming towards my bed. I felt Pop sit down on my bed. My back was facing him as I stared at the wall. "Hey champ," he said in a low, apologetic sort of tone. I made no movement. "You feel like talking?" I didn't move. He sighed and said, "Yeah, I guess I can't really blame you there." Another moment passed in complete silence before he went on. "Listen, I want to apologise for being such a jerk earlier. In fact, I want to apologise for always being such a jerk like I've been all this time." I felt his hand pat my back gingerly. "I want you to understand that I love you and want you to be safe and happy. You know that, right?" I didn't respond. He sighed again and continued, "Robbie, there's things I haven't told you, and there's a damn good reason why. Your friend was right. Yes, the cops do use flashing lights like I've told you about, but they weren't what I've been warning you about all this time." My eyes widened at the wall. My body stiffened. "Not entirely, anyways." "What do you mean?" I asked, unable to keep the silence anymore. "Oh, so now he speaks," Pop joked with a dry chuckle. He sighed before saying, "Like I said, there's things I haven't told you, Rob, because I wasn't sure you'd really understand. For that, I am sorry. And I'm sorry it's caused me to be a right arse with you sometimes." He paused before adding, "Look here for a moment, will ya?" I shuffled onto my back and looked at him. He held up a book in his right hand. It looked like one of my school binders. "This is everything I have ever found about the Blue Elves. I started looking into them after what happened the night your mama died." "Wait, what?" I exclaimed. He looked at me, startled for a second, before putting his face into his palm, muttering, "Jesus Christ. Son, I'm sorry." "Pop, what are you talking about?" He looked back at me with the saddest expression I've ever seen on his face before. "It was shortly after you turned about 1 or 2, started walking and everything. Your mama and I were taking you to your first Christmas parade." His mournful face gave way just slightly to part a dry, empty smile across his lips. "God, I remember you just smiling and giggling your little head off. You loved them lights." His smile fell again and he continued, "You saw a couple that you liked, and so you started walking off while your mama and I were taking a picture." He paused again, this time to choke down a sob that was fighting to be released. Drawing a breath, he began again. 2 seconds. We looked away for 2 seconds and found you gone. You'd headed off towards them flashing red and blue lights, and your mama just about had a heart attack. when I luckily managed to spot you in the crowd. You were just stumbling your way through. It was a miracle, honestly, that you weren't trampled with as many people that were there. The whole time he spoke, my body was a statue, completely hollow and lifeless, numb. You were halfway across to the other side of where we were by the time I found you, and your mama took off after you. I remember the red and blue lights got brighter and brighter the closer you got to it. Your mama made it to you before I could and grabbed you up, but wasn't able to catch sight of him in time before I saw a group of 2 or 3 of them bowl her over and started tearing away at her. She was screaming, clutching onto you for dear life. I ran as fast as I could over to her, and I managed to throw him off her. They started getting at me too. He rolled up his shirt to reveal a multitude of slash marks across his lower back. I'd never seen them before, and if I had, I'd never have guessed they were from a violent conflict like this. I was able to run him off, he continued, looking deader and deader on the face with each passing word. The ambulance came as quick as they could, but your mama was hurt way too badly by that point. They never found them either. The Blue Elves, that is. If they even believed me when I told them about them. But where did they go? I asked. I don't know. Of everything I was able to learn about them, what little there was to learn about them, that's something I've never been able to find. He handed me the binder. I opened it and started flipping through. It ain't much, he said, but right there is everything I could find. How did you come across all of this? After the night your mama died, I started looking for them. I wanted to see where they were and what they were, so I started reaching out to anybody that was willing to listen and might know a little something. So far, that's all it there. Part 2. The finale. Back at the binder. They were an assortment of letters, both handwritten and printed from email, of back and forth conversations between Pop and various other people. Each one of the printed ones were labelled as Blue Elf Encounter, with some of the handwritten ones coming with a photograph clipped to them. The photos were of course blurry as all hell, and no offence, some of the people writing these letters, both by hand and electronically, were not the most literate, with the many glaring spelling and grammatical errors that were on full display. Well, I'll leave you alone now. I love you, son, even if I am a jackass to you sometimes. I love you more than anything in this world. I love you too, Pop. The two of us locked eyes again for a moment before he gave me a half-hearted smile and left the room. After that, I spent I don't know how long just staring at the binder. I picked it up and began flipping through it. For the most part, they were all just email accounts of supposed Blue Elf encounters, like I mentioned before. Some of them briefer than others, comprising mainly of one-off events that, at least in my opinion, could easily be written off as either a hoax or something else entirely. What interested me though was a small series of letters that had these crude sketches of what they believed the creatures looked like, as well as what looked to be a fragment from a journal or something. The email detailed this encounter with the creatures, in which they managed to drive them away, but not before losing his daughter to them. Obviously, the bulk of the documents collected in the binder were from this person, and I could see why. I won't go into all the details of the guy's story. It's about as long and twice as soul-rending, honestly, as the story the old man had told me. But I will say that the journal fragments were probably the most disturbing part. From the sloppy way they were written, and from what they each said, I could tell they were from the daughter's diary. The first one read, "Dear Diary, Daddy took me to see the lights today. They were really pretty. They were all kinds of pretty colours. Some of them were silly though, like the blue and red ones. It was a Christmas party and they were just red and blue lights. What a weird colour. Anyway, these lights also had these weird little people in them. They are like little elves, but they are blue. How weird. Elves aren't supposed to be blue, but they were so cute, so I was going to go over and say hi to them, but Daddy stopped me. He was scared and got mad at me for wandering off like that. I told them I wanted to go say hi to the elves, but he didn't listen. He made us leave after that. I really wanted to stay. I want to see the lights again, especially the red and blue ones. Dear Diary, I can see the lights again. They are flashing in my window. They look so pretty. I want to go out and see them, but Daddy says I have to stay in my room. He says I have to think about what I did. I want to see the lights and the little people. Dear Diary, I see the little people in my window. They are flashing their lights at me and waving at me to come with them. The lights are so pretty. They keep waving their hands and smiling for me to run away with them. I can't though. Daddy would be upset if I ran away. I don't want Daddy to be upset. But gosh, it's so pretty. Dear Diary, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go with the little people. I'm gonna tell them that I can only play for a little while, then I have to be back home. Daddy won't ever know I'm gone, and I can play in the lights. I'm so excited. They are so pretty. After this, there was a newspaper clipping with the headline, "Little Girl Reported Missing." Along with this was a small collection of photos of the girl. One of them, of course, taken from the back of a milk carton with her name, birthday and last known location. Beyond this was another newspaper headline, this one with the headline, "Missing Girl Found Mauled Outside of Surrounding Woodland." It was dated only a day or two after the initial report of her disappearance. No suspects were ever apprehended either. No evidence of foul play, despite the gruesome state of her body, ruling it in the end as an animal attack, likely from a coyote, which seemed likely given that they were native to that area. The rest of the binder was just notes here and there Pop took of the different types of elves or other mythical creatures, none of which seemed to match the characteristics of the blue elves. You know, I have to say that, looking back, it is the textbook definition of jinxed what happened next. Realising I wasn't really gaining any traction with figuring out or understanding what the blue elves were, I was about to close the binder when I started to notice that there was something flashing from outside my window. I looked up to my bedroom window to see a blaze of rapid red and blue rays blinking, enough so to light up half my room. I raised my eyebrow at first. The lights were the same ones I'd always seen before, but this time, after a moment, I noticed there were no sounds accompanying it like before. Just the cops, I told myself. Nothing to be afraid. Then I saw them, tiny little shadows dancing around against the flashes. I went stiff on my bed. I wanted to get a closer look, but something told me not to. The flashes blinked steadily, yet brighter and brighter with each sound. The shadows moved closer and closer to the window. My body, out of reflex, started inching back farther and farther from the window, still staying seated on my bed. I closed my eyes. It's just the cops. There's no sound though. Nothing to be afraid of. The figures were right at the window. I could see 2 or 3 tiny sets of yellow eyes peering in at me. Just the cops. Cops only take bad people. But I'm inside. They can't get me, right? Didn't Pops say that as long as I was inside, I would be safe? They want me to come with them. They want to show me the lights. I closed my eyes then. I figured as long as I didn't lose myself to their trance, they wouldn't be able to get at me. Kind of like vampires basically. This was fine, until I realised that the lights alone wasn't their only method of goading me to the window. Turns out, I was wrong. They do make a noise. Not only that, but a familiar noise. That's right. It was the familiar sound of the police sirens I'd always heard. I struggled then to keep my eyes closed. I didn't know what I could do. That's the cops' sound. But I haven't done anything. It's just the cops. But why would they be here? Suddenly, I started hearing a tapping on my window, followed by tiny voices screeching. I strained to hold my eyes shut. That doesn't sound like cops. But then, what do cops sound like? Hey there, kid, one of the voices called out from the window. Tiny as it was, I noticed how deep the pitch of the voice was, sounding more like a lumberjack. My eyelids fluttered. I couldn't keep them shut much longer. Hey, it's okay. Do you like the lights? What? I thought. My eyes were almost completely open now. That's right. Look at the lights. Pretty, aren't they? Who are you? Faint flashes of red and blue were bleeding back into my eyes again. The siren noise bled into the background as a weird droning sort of ambience. We're just little people with the pretty lights, another voice said. This one, though still deep and adult sounding, was a bit smoother. A woman's voice. My eyes opened further, still trying to resist, but not really able to anymore. There's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to be afraid of. But they aren't cops. We just want to show you the lights, said the first again. The lights are so pretty. They take little boys away and they never get to see their mamas or pops again. But the lights... Come on, it'll be quick. Never see pops again. Come see the lights. Her voice echoed through my room. Through me. I could hear her. No. I could feel her reverberating through my entire body, the way sound would underwater. The same was true for the lights themselves. They really are pretty, aren't they? I remember seeing my arm reaching out to the window for the lights. It was completely involuntary, subconscious. Same as it was for me to shut my eyes just a second ago when I first saw them. I was wide-eyed by now, hypnotized to the window. I was aware of this, but... God, they're so pretty. Never see Pops again. But they're so pretty. I want to see them up close. Nothing to be afraid of. Start walking off towards the lights. I snapped to realise I was on my feet now, standing only 2 or 3 feet from the window. The tiny yellow dots in the window widened, pressing themselves closer to the glass. Doing this, their faces were further exposed by the light. Most of their overall features were still obscured by shadow, but I was able to make out the bluish teal sort of complexion of their skin. Panic caused my body to lock up instantly. Every muscle contracted at once. My mouth opened, but I couldn't scream. "Come on," the first one urged impatiently. "We're your friends, we promise," said the woman's voice. My body itched to run out of the room, but my mind couldn't be forced away from the window, from the lights. The pretty lights. I was terrified, and I knew nothing good was coming from these things, but I just couldn't. Nothing to be afraid of. My arm reached further out. I didn't want it to, but I couldn't make it stop either. The figures inched closer, pressing almost completely against the glass. Maybe it'll be okay. I'll see the lights. Never see Pop again. Pretty lights. They take every little boy they see. So pretty. Never see Pop again. I love you, son, more than anything in the world. I stopped again, this time turning away and screaming. That was all it took, for it wasn't even 7 seconds later that I heard elephantine footsteps come barreling down the hallway into my room. "Robbie!" The door to my room flew open at the exact time the window shattered, and I heard a shrill screeching sound. The next thing I knew, my arm felt like it was being slammed into a bed of broken glass, causing me to cry out in pain. I screamed even louder when I opened my eyes to see a small little goblin-looking creature with his jaws clamped tight around my forearm. Blood immediately started gushing around the creature's jaws, splashing all over its face and mine. I felt another one spearhead me straight in the middle of my chest, knocking me over. Another one then did the same, cannonballing right in the middle of my sternum, knocking the wind out of me. More of them then started dogpiling onto me, swarming me, picking and biting at me from every direction. I couldn't move, barely even to writhe in agony. I screamed out to Pop. I could barely see him, shaking while aiming his shotgun. He couldn't shoot though, not without hitting me. Despite this though, I heard him scream, "Get away from my boy!" before rushing over and batting them off of me with the butt of the gun. Swing after swing sent 3 or 4 of them flying off of me. That's when he started firing at the ones he batted away. I saw two of them lose their heads in one shot. But the thing was, this didn't kill them. Their bodies continued to charge forward while their heads crumbled to dust. Dad kept firing, but it didn't even slow them down. At one point I heard the shotgun click. The ones that were still on me continued to shred me to bits while the others then rushed Pop. Pop tried batting them back again, but there were too many of them. One that managed to fix itself to the back of his leg promptly clamped its jaws around his calf. Dad shrieked before collapsing to one knee. From there, it was all over for him. At once, they swarmed him like they had with me, and started tearing large chunks out of him. He thrashed around wilder than a pissed off bull, but it made no difference. They were each fastened to him. At one point, the others that were on me decided they weren't interested in me anymore and decided to migrate over to Pop with the rest. In as much pain as I was, not to mention how much blood I'd lost, I was not only surprised to still be conscious, but able to move as well. It was strenuous, but adrenaline allowed me to find my feet again, and I stumbled over to Pop, trying to kick as many of them off as possible. This had no effect, and soon one or two of them fixed themselves to my foot. Before they could bite down, I managed to shake them off of me. Pop cried out, "Son, get out of here! Run, now!" I froze for a split second. Almost his entire front of his body looked like raw meat. Large patches of pink bloody muscle tissue and tendons were exposed, and blood was pooling all around him. I wanted to help him, but what could I do? If I didn't run like he said, we'd both be lunch meat for these monsters. But I didn't want to just leave him. I wouldn't get much of a choice in that matter in the end, as one of them attempted to launch themselves from Pop's body to spearhead me again. I skirted out of the way just in time and took off down the hallway into the living room. I heard sets of tiny, deep-throated shrieks from behind me giving chase. I swiped the telephone from the base before bolting the rest of the way to the bathroom, where I locked the door and braced myself against it before frantically dialing 911. While the call was connecting, I could feel the door being rocked against from the other side. Blow after blow made the door push out further and further against my back. God, please pick up. My mind buzzed with worries of what the hell I was going to say when and if it did connect. Help! A bunch of killer elves broke into my house and are tearing my father apart. Another part of me then wondered what it would matter even if they did believe me. What would they be able to do? They can't be killed. Not by guns at least. Of course, all of this was overridden by the fact that it was the only thing that stood a chance of saving Pop.
911 operator, what is your emergency?
You gotta send help quick! My Pop, he's...
Calm down. What is your name and address?
I was about to try answering when a sharp blow from the other side of the door startled me. I saw the wood splinter. They were gonna be through any second now, and then I would be done for.
Hello? Are you still there? Are you hurt?
I'm at 1287 East Water Street. I'm in the bathroom. My Pop is dying. I cried out in pain when another blow against the door caused the wood to jut out, stabbing me straight in the back.
Alright, son. Stay with me. A unit is on its way now. I want you to stay on the line with me
Another jab in the back caused me to hurl the phone to the wall in front of me. 3 more caused the spiderweb of cracks to spread, sending more and more bits of wood flying. I pressed my full body against it. It was useless, I knew, but at that point it was all I had left, my last resort. Crack, 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 crack. I was pushed harder and harder from the door. I closed my eyes. Please hurry, I begged. Suddenly, everything was still. My body was tense, expecting more of the assault. But there was nothing. Everything was silent and still. My eyes opened. My arms relaxed, though my heart was still in a frenzy. I stood still, having no clue as to how to or if I even could move. What if they were still out there? Maybe just waiting me out like they were at the window. I peered down at the crack at the bottom of the bathroom door. There were no shadows from the other side. After about another minute, I decided to chance it and cracked the door open. The hallway was empty, dark, silent. "Pop!" I weakly called out. "Pop!" Nothing. I stepped carefully out of the bathroom and into the hall. My eyes darted around rapidly in each direction as I went along, my heart prone to start racing again. Nothing came out at me though. I made it to my room where Pop lay sprawled out on the floor, lifeless and completely shredded. "Pop!" I cried, dropping down and cradling his head. I gently started shaking him. "Pop, come on, wake up!" He just stared back up at me with dull, glazed eyes. It didn't even register at first to me that his skin was ice cold by that point. "No, Pop!" My head dropped onto his chest, sobbing. "Pop, no! No, please, Pop, not you! Not you!" I felt like I did when I was 8 years old again. Little chicken shit Robbie. That was me all over again, except now I don't even have my Pop to protect me. I looked over to his shotgun laying discarded at the right of him. "I got you, Robbie, I got you. I ain't gonna let the blue elves get you." The dam broke then. Oh God, no. Pop, Pop, please, no, I need you. At one point, I started up again in a panic at the sight of flashing blue and red lights coming from the window again. These were accompanied by the sirens. This time though, I noticed that the other voices were definitely from normal people, not the strange cerebral mimicry from the elves. It was really them this time. It was the police. Just the police. There was nothing to be afraid of anymore. The blue elves were gone now. Where to? I never knew, but couldn't really care either. They'd still taken everything from me, but my life. I was taken from the house that night, rushed immediately to the hospital, along with Pop's body. I spent the next 3 weeks there, where I didn't get a bit of sleep, and had serious close calls with, well, you know. In the end, I was put in with a counsellor and released from the hospital, where I was then plugged into a group home. During that time, I was obviously questioned as to what had happened, who'd broke into the house, to which I gave the only answer I figured was believable. A coyote had gotten in through my window and almost tore me apart when Pop stepped in. Like I said, not entirely uncommon for this area. Things changed after that for me. Instead of being the cheerful yet frightened little boy I was, I became a lot more carefree, as well as a lot more bitter with everything. A lot more dead in my concern. Not much really mattered to me anymore. I wasn't really afraid of anything anymore, including the Blue Elves. For that reason alone, I never took after my father's habit of trying to search about them. I knew everything I needed to. In fact, if I'm honest, I really always knew everything I needed to about them. They were exactly as Pop described all those years ago. Little critters that love to see little boys cry and take 'em away. I was a little boy that night. Christmas Eve, in fact. A happy little boy until they took that away with my father. But no more. I write this to say that I am not afraid of them. That's my victory. That said, I do believe in them, and I have one last question for you all. Have any of you ever heard of the Blue Elves? And I hope you enjoy the blooper reel. Part 1. Well, besides the fact that it is a part of popular... There's some mean crit... Instead of a lifetime paranoia of something you'd never ever... I turned and saw that. Probably due to a lack of strength needed to properly hold the... I turned and saw that, probably due to the lack of strength needed to properly... understand that, yeah, his language was on the regular. But you know how when you were a kid and your parent had the "God help you if you make me get all the way up." I was 16. They take little boys away and gave them to other monsters, and they don't ever want... But I couldn't have cared less about... There's things I haven't told you, and there's His mournful face gave away just slightly to pat. Part 2. Each one of the printed ones, for the most part, they were all just and twice as soul rendering. I want to go in it. I was about to close the blinder. Fuck's sake. I was about to close the binder when... Motherfucker. That was all it took, for it wasn't even second... That was all it took, for it wasn't even 7 seconds later that I heard elephant... The room to my... I screamed even louder when I opened my eyes to see a tiny... God, please help. I stood still, having no clue as to how to, or if I could even... That said, I do believe in them, and I have one... Hey family, please be so kind as to throat punch the like button and smack the arse of the subscription button as well. And remember to chokehold that notification bell and then select all. That way you'll receive all notifications each time I upload a new video. And by subscribing, you'll be the first to see all of our new spooky creepypasta stories. A very big thank you to Corpse Child for allowing me to narrate this awesome series. Make sure to check out their Reddit profile for more brilliant stories. And be sure to take a look at the playlist here for more of their stories that I may have already narrated. I would just like to say a very big thank you to all of the authors that I have worked with and all the ones that I will work with in the future. So thank you all, my brothers and sisters. And why not hashtag Cryptids Roost in your comments. A quick thank you to all of my Cryptids Roost community family too. We are now well on our journey to 1,000 subscribers. So please spread the word and help us to grow and expand. And don't forget to share the videos too. If you would like to throw me $1 or $3, I'd be very much appreciative. I do have PayPal, paypal.me/cryptidsroost. Alternatively, I have an account at buymeacoffee.com. You don't even need to register on either site to donate. You can also follow us at my Facebook group, Twitter and Instagram. I also have Ko-Fi, BitChute and Rumble. I have a subreddit if you have a story you've written that you would like me to narrate for you. All relevant links will be below. And don't forget to check out the end screen. See above. That will also list some more videos in my back catalogue. And I hope you all had a fantastic Christmas, and I wish you all the best for the new year. Take care everyone, and I hope you all have a wonderful and peaceful night. And don't forget, where fear is, happiness is not.